When it comes to horse racing, you can never have too much information. With TwinSpires, you can place your bets with confidence, whether you use handicapping insights like our Brisnet speed ratings, prime power and past performances, the guidance of our experts' top picks, or just choose a name that catches your eye. Yes! No matter how you pick your horse, bet with TwinSpires. And now you can race to victory with TwinSpires tournaments.
It's another edition of the TwinSpires Jury. I'm Ashley Anderson here with James Scully and Darin Zoccali to talk our best bets and fades at Kentucky Downs, where James and I are headed this weekend for racing coverage. And we'll also look at Del Mar and Colonial Downs. And Darin, since James went first last week, I'll let you start things off. What's your best bet of the week?
Yeah, closing week at Colonial, closing day, the Virginia Derby Day. Great card there. Definitely worth taking a look at with no racing in New York this weekend. Race number 9 is the Virginia Oaks, $250,000 for the 3-year-old fillies, going a mile and an eighth here. I'm really high on number 7, Deep Satin for Sherry DeVoe. If you watch the Keeneland spring meet, I was really impressed with this filly who moved out extremely wide off the turn, rallied boldly in the stretch to get beat just a length behind Waves of Mischief, then came out of that race to run another bang-up race after catching some traffic going a mile at Churchill to get beat just a neck, and then went up to Saratoga and won, drawing away by 3 lengths in that most recent start in a tough maiden special weight there on July 14th. There's a daughter of American Pharaoh out of a Chester House mare. She's yet to run a bad race. The speed figures are nothing but improving. And I think this is one of those lightly raced horses, as you're seeing her here just kind of accelerate and take off after making a big move. She's leveling out and drawing clear here from the field. It's a really impressive performance. And I just think she has a world of upside. She's going right into a stake event, so obviously the connections are going to be extremely high on her. But I just think this is a really talented filly that has shown versatility, can win right on the pace, can win from off the pace as well. And I think this is a good spot for her. So Deep Satin, I've been looking forward to her next start. It comes in a tough spot, but I think she's got a lot of talent. We're going to make her our best bet.
Yeah, it is a very tough spot. I agree with you. I wasn't quite sure what to do with that race. I thought the morning line favorite, Lukewarm, but it definitely looked pretty good last out too. So I don't know. You got good reasoning though. It was a very good race, third start for her career. So we'll see what happens. James, what about you?
Well, I'm going to go with Kentucky Downs has 6 stakes on Saturday, including the Grade 2 Kentucky Turf Cup. It's a win in your end for the Breeders' Cup Turf. And this is a 11-horse field that really came up with a bunch of speed. There's at least 4 speed types. So my best bet of the weekend is number 9, Anglophile, who is 10-1 on the morning line. Like I referenced before, number 4, Get Smokin', number 5, Segoy, number 8, Balladeer, and even this number 11, Chief Little Rock, who's the second choice on the morning line, one of 2 Aidan O'Brien Coolmore horses invading for these stakes. He's been a speed horse. He comes off a pace-setting effort where he was clear early in the King Edward, and in most of his races, he's on the front end, so he's going to be prominent. This race is going to set up for either a stalker or a confirmed closer, and I really think number 9, Anglophile, is coming back into his top form. This is his last race here, where he was 8th at the top of the stretch, and he comes rallying late to be 3rd. It was an improved effort, I thought, from his previous effort at Churchill Downs in June. And the thing with Anglophile is that his best race of his career, I mean, he ran his absolute best race on the turf at Kentucky Downs. He was in last year against Farbridge, who was coming into the Dueling Grounds Derby, which is now the Nashville Derby, off of a win in a Grade 1 Saratoga Derby. We just saw Farbridge win the Grade 1 Sword Dancer. He was a Grade 1 winner at the time, and he basically got outfinished by about a neck half length by Anglophile, who ran a huge race that day to win. Now, he did not go on after that race, got some time off, and came back, like I said, over the winter, came back this year with like a couple disappointing efforts. But I thought his 3rd place effort last time that we just saw was a step in the right direction. I think he'll love the 1.5 mile distance. And I think this race will really set up well for him. I am a little concerned about the 1-horse Highway Robber, who's another off-the-pace type. But at 10-1 on the morning line, anything close to that price, I'm going to be playing number 9, Anglophile, in the Kentucky Turf Cup.
Yeah, Highway Robert is the stablemate of Anglophile and beat him in that Ellis Park Stakes. So I'm leaning
Distance.
to
I'm
one.
looking for the distance and
Okay.
the turf to be the equalizer on Saturday.
All right. I might have a little bet going with you in this race then, James.
All right. Bring it on, Ashley.
My best bet is everyone's favorite horse name. It's No Balls at 6-1 in the Turf Sprint, a grade 2 at Kentucky Downs. Now he is going up against one of the best turf males in the country, Cogburn. He was 2 for 2 this season. We saw him win at Churchill Downs in the turf sprint, a grade 2, but I think he can be beaten. He's 5 for 6 on the turf, but his lone loss came at Kentucky Downs in this race last year. Now, No Balls closed out last season, winning 4 of his final 5 starts. We're watching him actually. He ended up losing to Cogburn in that one loss in his final 5 starts. And that was over soft turf. We're going to get firm turf based off the weather forecast here. And No Balls is making his second start of the season. His first start, it came off a more than 8-month layoff. And so I'm looking for him to improve in this second start of the season. And Larry Rivelli is a 32% winner, second start off the layoff. We also have Gerardo Corrales aboard. He is 3 for 9 to start the meet at Kentucky Downs. So I like that combination. He also had the mount when No Balls won the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint last year. Final start of the season, got a 99 Brisnet speed figure. I expect a big performance this weekend. And look, if you want to win big in racing, you got to be ballsy. So I'm going No Balls at 6-1.
I like
I
it.
didn't see that one coming.
Yeah, I didn't see that coming. I didn't see that coming either. Good one, Ashley. But I like the play. I think Cogburn could lose this race to No Balls, or just lose this race, period, and still come back and win the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint. I do a radio show weekly. I get asked every year. We talk about Kentucky Downs. Hey, what do you look for at Kentucky Downs? And my first answer is always horses that run well there and horses that don't run well there. And the fact that Cogburn got beat there last year is a major concern of mine. He won't be running on that kind of turf course in the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint or any other track in America. So I like the pick, because this might be the one place to beat Cogburn.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with that sentiment when it comes to horses that run well and don't run well at Kentucky Downs. And obviously, this is a horse that did get beat last time, and he's also going a distance that maybe is a little bit farther than he wants to go. He could be at his best at the 5 to 5.5. I do think he's probably a different horse right now than he was going into this race last year. But there's not a lot of races in the United States for turf sprinters where you can race for $2 million. And you almost feel compelled to run Cogburn here for that type of a purse. But I don't blame you at all for taking a shot against him. The other interesting thing to note that I'm sure Cogburn's going to have to try to rebuff here is I think horses that come out of Kentucky Downs are something like 0 for 53 going into the Breeders' Cup. And that covers all the Breeders' Cup races. So if he comes out of this and runs in the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint, which you have to imagine he will, to win that, he's going to have to buck a pretty big trend also.
Yeah, that I did not know that. So that's very interesting to watch what happens this weekend. Let's talk about the horses we're fading at a short price. So James, who was that for you?
I'm going to fade in race number in the Music City. I'm going to fade number 9 Pounce in Saturday's Music City. Race number 7, excuse me there. Pounce is a Mark Casse trained filly that exits the Lake George at Saratoga in late July, I guess. And that race just really was up for grabs in deep stretch. The top 4 are all separated by less than a length on the wire. And she did get up nicely to win the race. But one thing about Pounce, she had been racing on the lead in her previous starts, and she switched tactics in this race. And like I said, gets up to win a blanket finish. But or is this the right race? Well, maybe not. I don't know. But I'm looking for her to change tactics on the cutback to a sprint. And I really think she's vulnerable here. She's been anything but consistent, hasn't been able to string together wins in the past. When she won that Here Comes the McBride Stakes at Gulfstream Park earlier this year. Didn't run well in her next 2 starts. And I just like other runners in this field better at this 6.5 furlong distance. I like number 4, Pipsy, who won the Soaring Softly in her U.S. debut. And I even like Pounce's stablemate, Time to Dazzle, off of a real sharp win in the Ontario Cotillion, better than Pounce. So I'm going to try to beat the 7-2 morning line favorite in the Music City Stakes. What do you think, guys?
Yeah, I like the 2 horse too for Cherie DeVaux. I think could have a chance. Jose Ortiz is aboard. Buttercream Babe, 1 for 2 at Kentucky Downs, has a 3rd place finish at that track as well. So I see a couple others with a good shot here. What about you, Darin?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to take a look again at Colonial Downs and kind of stick with the theme there. 2-year-old filly event, 2-year-old colt event, the Kitten's Joy, going a mile and a 16th over the turf course there. I'm going to fade number 10, Good Directions. At a short price, I know 7-2 morning line, but this is the morning line favorite. Shipping in from Saratoga. The horse was 29-1 in the Saratoga Special. Didn't really run a step that day. Won upon debut at Presque Isle Downs, ran in a good second after stumbling a bit at Ellis Park. But now going to turf for the first time, going long for the first time. Liam's Map, can throw a turf runner, the bottom side of the pedigree. Is a tail of a cotty mare by the name of Miss Sammy, who never ran on the turf. This horse's siblings, there is one that did win a turf sprint, but that's about it. So I'm just a little bit dubious about this particular spot. And I think there's some other horses in here that have some talent and some ability. Mark Cassie has one shipping up from Gulfstream that ran okay last time. Keith DeSormo sends a horse out there that won by 18 lengths. Brad Cox has got one coming in from Horseshoe Indy. Then you have Just a Fair Shake, who was a nice winner at Laurel, and Ready for Peace, who I was really impressed with in his win for Ignacio Correas at Colonial. So I just think there's a lot of different options you can go in here. And Good Directions for me is going to be a fade, especially if the horse is actually going to go off favorite in this spot.
I think it's a good move, especially first time on the turf. I mean, that's such a big variable there. And then first time at a route as well. I'm going to take it back to Kentucky Downs for the Kentucky Turf Cup, a Breeders' Cup win, and you're in for the Breeders' Cup turf. James, you already talked about this race, and I'll mention the morning line favorite, Integration, at 8-5. This is a horse we've talked about a lot on the jury and the round table. Obviously, as a 3-year-old, went 3 for 3 and won on debut at Colonial, won the Virginia Derby at Colonial, then won the Hill Prince Stakes at Aqueduct. But as a 4-year-old, it's a totally different story. 1 for 5, lone win came against 2 rivals, again at Colonial Downs. This horse has won 3 of his 4 races at Colonial. He's got 3 of his wins out of his 4 wins at Colonial. And I just don't like him shipping over to Kentucky Downs. Again, a very unique track. And I am a little concerned with the competition here. A little bit better Brisnet speed figures from some of his rivals in their most recent start. We had a 95 from Integration in the Arlington Million. He did close really well against Nation's Pride in the Arlington Million, and he'll be stretching out to 1.5 miles in this race. But I just think there's a lot of other horses with a good shot here, and this is too short of a price for a horse that does its best running at Colonial Downs. We also have an Aidan O'Brien runner in this field, and he definitely knows how to win at 1.5 miles on the turf. So I'm fading Integration in this spot, and it looks like you are too as well, James.
Yeah, I didn't think Integration was ever a threat to Nation's Pride. I thought Ancient Rome actually made a little bit of a run, and then he just got tired. I mean, he's probably a little bit more of a miler or whatever happened. At least he offered to run an upper stretch and then weakened late. But Integration, so he got up for second, but in a sense, somebody had to be second. That race had a really, really good horse in Nation's Pride, but it was a little bit lack of depth. And his performances outside of Colonial Downs earlier this year and over the winter are a major concern. So I don't want to take a short price with him shipping into Kentucky Downs and stretching out to this 1.5 mile distance. I mean, he's a little bit of a question mark going to 12 furlongs. I would rate him. So, yeah, I like that fade too.
Yeah, for me with Integration, I've always been very high on his talent. And to be honest, I think it was unfair that Kendrick Carmouche was removed from this horse. And his best runs have come with Kendrick Carmouche aboard. And I don't think it's a coincidence that his last 2 races have been much better. He got a very bad trip in the Pegasus World Cup turf where he got stuck down inside, and Tyler Gaffalione got completely shut off trying to make a move in between horses that day. He had a very wide trip in just a 6-horse field over a yielding turf course in the Maker's Mark Mile, which is probably shorter than he wants to go. Then Gaffalione gave him another ride where he was stuck chasing wide, actually stuck chasing inside in the Turf Classic, and I didn't like that trip either. And then he got 2 decent trips, although in the Arlington Million, I thought he was pretty far off of a pace that was rather pedestrian. And look, let's be honest, Nation's Pride would be 2-5 against this field. So he's running against far better horses than what he's running against here. I don't think any of those reasons are the reasons that he would lose. I think he loses for one of 2 reasons. Either he doesn't like this course or he can't get a mile and a half. But on talent, I think he's head and shoulders better than anything else in this race.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I mean, this Quality Road going a mile and a half, I don't see a lot of Grade 1 winners by Quality Road at 12 furlongs, but he definitely, his races last year were terrific. So, I just, to me, 8-5 is way too short. I mean, maybe he won't be that short, but that's just too short. We're on the promos now. I was going to jump on the promos.
Promo time.
Well, yeah, kick us off, Darin. What's going on this weekend? We have tournaments, we've got promos, a whole lot.
We got everything. Tournaments kicking off. Colonial Downs. We have Friday. We have an NHC BCBC qualifier on Saturday. That's a $750 buy-in, $500 to your bankroll, $250 to the prize pool, guaranteeing 3 seats there, 2 for the NHC and 1 for the BCBC. We even have a Kentucky Downs cash challenge as well on Sunday for $150. And we have some more exciting news that we can actually drop right now. We have feeders coming to our tournament schedule starting on Monday. So what that means is if you want to play in the qualifiers to get into some of these bigger tournaments, we're now going to have the feeders that cost a lot less money to enter throughout the week to give players an opportunity. If they finish within a certain range of the top in those feeders, they can earn an entry into the qualifier without having to pay for the seat. So that's exciting. That's going to start next week as we continue to ramp up our tournaments. So really looking forward to getting that underway as well. Kentucky Downs, we've got the money back there. That keeps on rolling throughout all their days of racing. So be sure to be locked in there as well. And we're actually taking advantage of some racing this weekend at Colonial again. Virginia Derby Day. $10 money back there as well for their signature event. A great day of racing, really tremendous fields. And we have the Breeders' Cup Challenge Profit Boost. That is going to stop at Kentucky Downs. The entire card is eligible, 15% there on that great card on Saturday. And then as well, we're going to wrap up the Del Mar meet with a Del Mar Daily Double down 25% boost on those daily doubles. So no surprise, guys. No shortage of offers. All of the marquee meets are covered. Where better to play than TwinSpires?
And I will keep things with you, Darin. So what else are you watching for this weekend?
Yeah, the Kentucky Downs card I thought was really interesting. And while I freely admit it's a difficult card to handicap, as they always are, I was really interested with this Mint Millions race, the Grade 3 $1 million mile. I thought this race came up really, really tough. There's some really interesting storylines in here. Funtastic, again, is returning for Wesley Ward off about a 3.5-month layoff, where this horse was second in the Grade 1 Shoemaker Mile when last seen at Santa Anita. Talk of the Nation, who I thought ran bravely, prompting the pace of Nation's Pride in the Arlington Million. He comes back here for Todd Pletcher. You have Ancient Rome, who's coming in for Charlie Hills. That's the horse that James had referenced, who ran a good third in the Arlington Million as well. He certainly does fit amongst this group. And then maybe the most interesting entry in the race is Irish Aces, who just won last weekend at Kentucky Downs in the Tappet Stakes. They're going to roll him right back on 8 days rest and take a shot for $1 million because, hey, if you got a horse that shows you can run over the course, why not try to do it twice? So they're going to take a shot and be a price here. But I thought this was a really interesting race on what is just a blockbuster card, guys.
There's a couple of races at Kentucky Downs where there are horses coming off, maybe 6-7 days of rest. How do you normally handicap those kind of horses, either of you? Because, do you get concerned when you see that short of a break?
a lot of the times I'll go back and look at the trainer's historical data doing it. If it's something that they like to do a lot and they have a success rate that's, noticeable, cutting back and coming back quickly, that's something. And I treat it kind of similar to how I treat a layoff. If a trainer has good numbers off a layoff, I'm less concerned about the layoff. Same thing here. If you wheel them back quick, if the trainer's got good numbers coming back fast, I'll take an extra look at it and not necessarily hold it against them.
I think it's less of a concern too at the same track. I mean, I'll see these horses come back a week later and ship from like one track to the other, or maybe even go from one track to the other on the same circuit. But that's more of a concern for me. I usually don't get too caught up in it, but there are some trainers that you just know they tend to give their horses a lot of time between starts. So, it's something to take into consideration. I'll mention, too, this Mountain Bear, this Coolmore horse. I think he's a little interesting. He ran second in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf last fall, and he's been running against some good company overseas. My what else? Darin referenced just now, really. He referenced Colonial earlier. There's no New York racing this weekend, and Ashley and I will be at Kentucky Downs this Saturday and Sunday, but on Saturday, I'll be keeping an eye on my phone for these Colonial Downs. They got 6 stakes on this closing day Saturday program. It's highlighted by the Virginia Derby, which will become a dirt race next spring and be a Kentucky Derby qualifier. But this year's Virginia Derby got 11 horse field. I thought the first 2 of these stakes races, the Colonial Cup and the Rosie Stakes, the Colonial Cup got Grade 2 winning millionaire Web Slinger. The Rosie Stakes got the winner of the Tyro Stakes, Governor Sam. They look pretty formidable at short odds. But I thought the Kitten's Joy, which is a turf, like 2-turn turf stakes, the DeHaas, which is for 2-year-olds, I believe, then the Virginia Oaks and the Virginia Derby, which all have at least like 10 or 11 horses in them. I thought all 4 of those had potentially vulnerable favorites on the morning line. Darin already referenced the Virginia Oaks morning line favorite. I'll reference Deterministic. He's the 3-1 morning line favorite in the Virginia Derby. He is 0-2 on the turf. He has not gone on since winning the Gotham in March, and I love to play against horses like that at short odds. I prefer a horse like Hershey, number 1, or number 7, Desvio, who are both 2-2 on the turf and up-and-coming turf types over a horse like Deterministic that's been exposed over and over. So as a horse player, I'm really excited to dig in and attack these stake races at Colonial Downs. We already know the racing at Kentucky Downs. It's stakes packed and it's extremely competitive as well also. So just a good, I thought, weekend. I wanted to spotlight both tracks for horse players.
And it's the final running of the Virginia Derby on the turf because we're going to see it come back in March as a Kentucky Derby prep race on dirt. So that will be interesting.
The race will just get a new name, though. The race will still exist.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just going to get a new name in that part of the calendar.
And they could call it, Jason Beam said they could call it the Commonwealth Derby because that was actually what they called the Virginia Derby when they ran it at Laurel Park while Colonial was closed.
Yep.
Well, James, I'll also be checking my phone this weekend on Saturday and Sunday for my fantasy football team on Sunday, but also because Del Mar has 2-year-old graded stakes, the Del Mar Debutante Stakes, a grade 1 for fillies, and then we have the Del Mar Futurity. Now, in the Debutante, we have Noonie making her return. She's going for her 3rd career win. She is unbeaten from 2 starts, a Bob Baffert runner, a $1.8 million yearling purchase. A very, very good horse, had a 91 breast net speed figure on debut, winning by more than 9 lengths, then got a 95 breast net speed figure in the Sorrento, a grade 3 last out. But there's also Vodka with a Twist, missing the T there. And this is a 1,000 words filly. This is a first crop sire, 1,000 words, doing very well, 3rd in progeny earnings right now. And Vodka with a Twist was 2nd in the Sorrento and was fractious behind the gate. Maybe we'll get a little bit better start here. I think certainly a very good filly. So I'm interested to see if she's the 2nd choice on the morning line. Interested to see if she can upset a very good horse in Noonie, but probably going to go with Noonie for the win here because, I mean, that horse is just, I think, has to be the best filly right now in the country, in my opinion. But as far as the Del Mar Futurity, Bob Baffert is also going for a record 18 wins in that race. And look, he's back on the Derby and Oaks Trail, so it's time to take note of his 2-year-olds over in California, because some of them might show up on the first Saturday in May and the first Friday in May in 2025. That's what we're in. How to think about that.
Bob Baffert certainly has a couple of 2-year-old males that have been awesome. He had that maiden winner. He skips my name. And then he had Getaway Car, who won the Best Pal. I thought Nooney was awesome first time out. Her Sorrento victory, I thought she was like pushed a little bit, even though she won by open land. So that's a little bit of a cause of concern. But I might have to be looking to play against her this fall, because I think this competition, she might have them over the barrel.
Any thoughts on the races, Darin, over at Del Mar?
Yeah, I always have to look at those 2-year-old races, and whenever Bob Baffert puts something in there, I always just assume that they can run. I mean, it's very rare that they can't. Sometimes he's got 3 or 4 in there, and you got to figure out which one can run, and then you have to kind of get intuitive and watch the workouts and watch the workout reports and things like that. But yeah, I fully expect that filly to be able to go. And, the Breeders' Cup is out in Southern California this year. So, he's going to have a major presence with the 2-year-old races out there.
All right. Well, that's all the time we have today for the TwinSpires jury. James, I'll see you tomorrow in Louisville to head down to Franklin, Kentucky. TwinSpires will be offering full coverage trainer and jockey interviews at Kentucky Downs. And Darin, I hope you enjoy your weekend in the greatest city in the world.
Yeah, I got basketball tryouts all weekend, so they got me coaching 3 teams this year. So this will be really interesting.
Well, enjoy, and we'll be back next Thursday with more best bets and fades.
When it comes to horse racing, you can never have too much information. With TwinSpires, you can place your bets with confidence, whether you use handicapping insights like our Brisnet speed ratings, prime power and past performances, the guidance of our experts' top picks, or just choose a name that catches your eye. Yes! No matter how you pick your horse, bet with TwinSpires. And now you can race to victory with TwinSpires tournaments.